How can thinking about our own personal seasons of life make our life better? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hi, this is Jill from the North Woods, talking about how to make your life better, one small step at a time. I was thinking about this. I did this as a podcast a while ago, and the topic and the idea really stuck with me. We're talking about seasons, but not the weather kind of seasons that you get over here in the North Woods. I have strong opinions about those too. But the seasons of your life, and I'm not even talking about sometimes people think of the seasons of their life as it's spring when they're very young, and their summer when they are youthful, and then their fall when they're getting older, and then when they're elderly, it's winter. Not those seasons either. This is a different framework, and when you understand your seasons, you will be able to think about your life a little bit differently. Most of the time, like I said, when you think about seasons of life, we're not tracking time. We're not watching the clock. What we're talking about is this concept that's a little bit different than that. I love this quote that I got from Donald Miller that says, "All trees are losing their leaves, and not one of them is worried." That's why trees aren't panicking that they're losing their leaves, throughout the year. They do what trees do. They understand what season they're in. And then we can take and learn from that kind of idea. When you try to think about seasons in your life, they're not primarily, like I said, about how old you are. It's about where you are right now, what your moment is calling for. You can be 60 years old and be in spring, starting a business, launching a new chapter in your life, discovering creative outlets for yourself. You can be 30 and be in a winter, processing grief, recovering from burnout, doing the quiet, invisible work of rebuilding. Age is not a variable map in the seasons. The seasons themselves are the variable. And when you stop mapping them out into a timeline, this whole framework becomes very useful to us. Another author that I liked was Parker Palmer, who put it this way. He says that seasons are a wise metaphor for your life because they suggest it's neither a battlefield nor a game of chance, but something infinitely richer. The cycle doesn't deny loss or struggle or darkness. It just says all things have a place. All things have a purpose. And that is very different way to hold on to how we look at time. So let's look at the model I'm talking about when we talk about the 4 seasons. It's about how you carry yourselves through each phase of your different parts of your life. Spring is a time of new beginnings, regrowth, new growth. The ground is fresh, the energy's high, and we're just starting something out. In a spring season, you're learning, you're soaking in information, you're trying new things, you're asking great questions, you're figuring out what works. You're not expected to have all the answers yet. It's brand new. The whole point is to grow right into whatever is happening then. Spring season looks a lot different at different points in life. Maybe you're starting a new job. Maybe you're coming back from a really hard time and you're feeling hopeful again. I've known people who've gotten divorced and it's been very tough on them. And at some point they feel spring again, that they're ready to launch again. And if you're trying something that you've been sitting on for years and years, maybe you're stepping out into retirement and you can finally do the things that you've always wanted to do because you have the time. Spring is about potential, energy turned into, so there's 2 kinds of energy, right? There's kinetic energy and there's energy that actually works itself out. Potential energy means you got a boulder sitting on top of a hill and it's about to roll down that hill. There's energy packed into it because of what it's about to do. So in spring season, learn fast, ask great questions, say yes to things, try things out, stay curious, and don't let perfectionism slow you down. The ground is fertile, and it's time to start planting things. Summer is about expansion. You're established, things are going well, you got some roots now, and you're going to branch out. You're going to stretch out farther than you could before because of the solid foundation you built. Summer is a time when you deepen commitments, when you choose a different direction, but it is still a part of what it is you've been working on. You're building on top of it. This is a season for experimenting, for taking on stretch projects, for putting in work that won't pay off till much later, right? Think about summer, you get apples, right? And it's getting little buds on it, little tiny crab apples on it. It is producing towards full-blown apples. The fruit is coming. It is just not here yet. So summer is rarely dramatic. It's usually a consistent effort over time. Meaningful things will get built. It's a time for honesty where you look at what's working and what's not working. It's a time for you to stay consistent, to protect your energy, and to build things that are going to matter when you get to autumn. Autumn is a harvest time. And when the work you did in summer starts paying off, you developed real expertise. You're making, or you made enough mistakes that you know what you're doing now, and the fruit is visible. Autumn season feels like mastery. You can walk into a situation and know from experience what needs to happen. You can help people who are still in summer figure out what it is they have to do without learning the hard way like you had to. I hit a personal autumn a few years ago in my professional work when I reached a point where I could genuinely and confidently guide customers through the most complex problems because I had been through it enough times. I'd recognized the patterns. I became an expert in the software company that I was working in. I was now ready to recognize the fruit of all the hard work. I've earned it. In that autumn season, you've harvested or are harvesting what it is you built. You sharpen your craft. You look for little nudges here and there to just make it more perfect. And you protect what you've already worked for financially, with your relationships, professionally, and you start teaching others because you're at that next level of effort. You have something that the world needs because of all the things that you've learned. And now you're ready to give back. And then there's winter, and winter gets a bad reputation. People hear winter and they think of endings, slowing down, loss, and decline. And I think winter is actually one of the most underrated seasons in this framework because of what it actually does. It's a ground reset. The tree isn't dead, right? The tree in winter is not dead. It's preparing. It's preparing for the next spring. It's pulling resources inside because it's cold out there and getting ready for the next burst of growth that nobody sees coming yet. Winter seasons are times of rest, reflection, healing, depth. For doing the slow work that doesn't show up on any kind of dashboard. It's for asking the big questions that maybe you never had time to ask, or sitting back and wondering if you're going in the right direction for this next season. It's even a time for enjoying the quiet rhythms of life. If you're in winter right now, maybe a season of loss or of uncertainty or a project in your life that has stalled or just an extended period of not knowing what comes next. I want to say to you that you're not behind. You're not failing. You're doing exactly what the season requires. Rest is productive. The roots are growing again. The cells inside the trunk are rebuilding and re-energizing themselves and getting ready for a new burst. It's nothing visible, right? When we look at a tree in winter, we don't see any sort of visible evidence that tree is doing anything, but it's doing a lot. It is slowed down intentionally so that it can learn what it needs to do next in a quiet season. Restore the energies and trust that spring is going to come again. Now, the part I want you to pay attention to is because this framework gets the most practical, is that sometimes we're not always in one particular season. Simultaneously, we can be in multiple seasons and big ones and small ones all over the place. When you think about these seasons, think about them more like micro seasons inside of it. You might be in a season of job searching. You might be in a season of difficulties in your friendship. You might be a season of paying off debt. You might be in a season of caring for an aging parent. You might be in a season of finally having time for yourself. I always think about it's Ecclesiastes 3 that says, for everything there's a season, churn. It's a 3,000-year-old poem. But basically, there's a time for everything, a time to plant and a time to harvest and a time to build up and a time to tear down and a time to be quiet and a time to speak up. The wisdom isn't just knowing the list of things, it's actually developing enough intelligence so that you can recognize what season you're actually in. I think one of the most common things I see people make, and I've made it myself, is doing the wrong activity for the wrong season. Trying to harvest when you haven't planted yet. Trying to plant when you're supposed to be resting. Or pushing hard in a season that is asking for some stillness. Waiting for a season that is asking for actions when you're just sitting there and doing nothing. The right move in the wrong season is still the wrong move. So regardless of whatever season you're in, there's 3 things that are always worth doing, and that is to keep learning. Every season has a thing to teach you about yourself, about your work, about the people around you that matter the most. So staying curious, reading, exploring, asking good questions, and paying attention are great for every season. Keep one eye out for the next season, not in an anxious way, but so that you know what it is you should be preparing for right now. You don't want to ever say, I can't enjoy right now because I'm worried about what's going to come later. But in a practical way, you say, I want to figure out what it is I need to be learning, doing right now so that I can prepare for that next season. I want to see a move that's coming. I want to see a financial situation that's about to change. I want to see if my career is going to shift. Or is there a skill that I need to be building right now? You don't have to know exactly what is next. You just have to be facing in the right direction. Enjoy where you are right at that moment. And the one sounds obvious, I think, is that we can't skip. It's oftentimes we try to skip seasons, but the different seasons have different kinds of memories. They have different kind of achievements. And in a quiet morning or an active afternoon, there's conversations, there's learning, and an ordinary day turns out not to be so ordinary at all. And, during the pandemic, I think a lot of us had a version of this story, but I found myself in an unexpected winter where suddenly I was expecting a very busy time. I used to travel for my work. I was going out to customers. And then suddenly everything slowed to a screeching halt. And there were weeks where I felt disoriented, like the normal rhythm of life had just stopped. And at that point, I made a decision that season was to work on the things I could control. I started to fix things around this house. I started podcasting. I started exercising and losing weight. I worked on the things I could, which were not the things that were outside in other places at customer trips and customer sites. I had a closed down season, and it turned out to be the exact condition I needed to finally start making some big impacts in my own life, things that I've been thinking for doing for a long time. And that winter made space for the new spring. I'm not saying that every season has a silver lining or that you can, find good in everything. Sometimes those seasons are hard and genuinely hard, and you are in a full stop. But what I think is that even in winter, there are things growing and going on that you can't even see yet. And so here's what I want you to do is just, think of 2 things. Try to identify what season you're in right now, even the micro seasons that you're in. Like I said, at one point you could be in a season of growth in your job, but having some energy in your relationships. So start looking at the different aspects of your life. Are you in a spring with new beginnings, new learnings? Things are just getting started? Or are you in a summer of building and establishing consistent effort? Or are you in an autumn that's harvesting and benefiting from all the work you had been already doing, deepening expertise, and now you're looking ahead for what's next? Or maybe this is a time for rest, reflection, doing the quiet work. And then once you've identified the big seasons, identify some of the micro seasons for you. Maybe I have a friend who is over with in a relationship. And so while her work is going great, other aspects of her life are going very well, she is basically in a time of winter when it comes to a big relationship she had. And now she's just resting. She wants to be in spring. She wants to figure out what's next. She wants to put energy towards that. But I think you can't get there until you do the healing, the resting, and figuring out what the next thing is. Maybe in health, you are in a new spring. You got a lot of energy and you're ready to go for it. Maybe you're in a financial reset or a creative growth period, whatever it is. Write those things down, 2 to 3 practical steps that would actually fit what it is you're in for your seasons of life right now, so that you can see what steps you should be taking, so that you can see just exactly what the scenario is right now. That's it. Season awareness is about the right actions at the right time and the right small steps in the right direction. Even throughout literature, if you look at literature, seasons turn. Hard times come and go. Perspectives change everything. Winters of discontent don't stay winters. They become summer. Not by ignoring what happened in winter, but by living through it and living through it well. Like trees, you do the next right thing for that season that you're in and trust the cycle. All right, everyone, thanks so much. Appreciate you being out there. You can find out all podcasts I do at jillfromthenorthwoods.com. Appreciate you being out there. Leave a comment right here. And I'd love to hear what kind of season you're in right now. So just be like the trees and do the next right thing for the season that you're in. Trust the cycle. Do the thing you're supposed to be doing at this particular moment. Thanks so much. I appreciate being out there. Remember, you can email me at jill@startwithsmallsteps.com, and you can put a comment right here. If you have a friend who's in a hard season right now, you might share this particular title with them. Something that's giving them a framework about what they're supposed to do in a hard season or in a joyful season so that you know what to do next. And then make sure that you leave a review or subscribe to this channel. I appreciate you being out there. I hope to genuinely find people who would be helped by this particular show. Thanks.